you can say.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Yes, someone wants something. Page 15 you want? Here it is.
The 15 last five
All you need to
means
discuss.
no. 4, 5, 6. If someone is one to also all no problem.
Okay.
So fifth point, sir.
Fifth point is PPE.
Correct.
Installing, fifth point on page number 15, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that is full body harness, providing full body harness. Yes, this is a PPE that reduces consequences. Why? Because you will not touch the ground, you will be hanging somewhere on the height. It does not reduce the likelihood of of falling from height. To reduce likelihood, you have to have fencing, barrier. See, for
Mhm.
example, even if suppose I am working on height, you gave me a harness, but still I can fall now if I am working on the edge. If I don't take care while working, I may fall. The only
Correct.
thing is I will be hanging in between.
Okay.
Yeah. So that reduces the consequences. Minimum injuries I might receive.
And
Mhm.
But
what
if there
about
is
this
no harness, I will
last
die. Yes.
six one?
Last is providing emergency stop.
No, that is the engineering control and also likelihood it will.
No consequence, not likelihood.
Okay. And what about this one? This fire sprinkler system
Checking,
likelihood
see, it's inspection, checking the working of a sprinkler system, whether it is working fine or not. This is clear. It is an admin control.
control and likelihood.
Okay. No. Why likelihood? See, if you have a sprinkler system, will it reduce the chance of fire?
No.
That's what. It only reduces consequences. In case of fire, it will work. So minimum damage you will receive.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it is consequences. Clear? All comfortable with all this? I hope. I think we have everyone present today. That's fantastic. All right. Where is Mr. Rubal? Okay, Rubal is here. Where is Mr. Renjo? Okay, Renjo is the one missing, huh? All right, guys. Anyway, all
Okay,
comfortable with
Mr.
this?
Sai.
Comfortable with?
Sir,
Can I remove this?
in page 14,
Yes.
sir, excavation में sir, this is same like as a pedestrian providing. तो वहाँ
Hello?
पे
Hello, Ambal.
Just hold on. Which page 14? Yes. Oh, which
yes,
point?
oh, 7 numbers.
Okay. Amir, today there is a lot of voice coming from your end. I just muted you and no, no, not your. I think it is somewhere. Anyway, we will see that. Yeah, page 14. Muzammil is saying, right?
Yes, sir. Question
Okay.
number 7. It is similar like sir in page number 16, pedestrian providing same like they here.
No, no, no. This 7 is using a sandpaper instead of electric power sender.
No, sir. 7 number I think creating a SSOW on excavation.
Okay, sorry. Creating a safe system of work. Nahi. This is not like that one. This here you are only designing a paperwork. You are doing a paperwork. Safe system of work is like method statement, yeah, risk assessment, or job safety analysis, or SOP. So these are what it is. Like permit to work system. So
Okay,
creating a permit to work system, you can say on safe excavation. Okay.
okay. It's on the paper means not matlab,
Yes. Not
okay.
physical. It's paperwork, documentation, like attendance.
Okay, okay, sir.
So it's a paperwork. Whereas there it is engineering because you are providing some barrier. As you can see in the photograph, there are hard barriers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the difference. Comfortable? Can I remove this thing now? Activity answer. I hope
Yes,
all
sir.
of you are done. Mr. Ashari, I heard the sad news and don't know what to say, but all I can say is I hope you are fine now. Okay. All right. Fine. So I am removing this, guys. I hope all of you are done with this. All right. Let me quickly check the attendance and then we will start the session for today. There is a lot of background noise coming today from somewhere. I don't know. It was from Muzammil. Okay. Muzammil, please mute yourself. Too much sound is coming in. All right. We will finish our risk assessment topic today. We'll go through some application of risk assessment as per the legal requirements, you can say, and then we will start the specific laws, you can say, which require risk assessment to be carried out. Let me quickly see, Mr. Jacob. I hope all of you are comfortable with the activity answers now. No questions, no doubt on that. Now, see what is the benefit, guys. When you will be doing your risk assessment for IG2, you have to apply control measures. Okay. Keep in mind, understand properly what control measure is reducing what, because in part 3, which we will discuss later on, you have to carry out a likelihood and consequence, thing. You have to find out how much is the likelihood, how much is the consequence after applying your control measures and like that. So that's why the understanding is necessary. Some control measures, or I should say most of the control measure reduces likelihood, some control measure reduces consequences, and some control measure reduces both. Clear with this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Renju is not available, I think. Yes. Rest everyone is available here. All right. That's great. Oh my God. Oh, just hold on, guys. What is this? How can I remove? Oh, it's here. Okay, I will see that later on. So come on now. Let's start from application of risk assessment. You see what happens. Try to understand. There is a general law like Factory Act, for example, or BOCW Act, for example. There are general laws which demand risk assessment to be in place. Guys, there is some sound coming. I think is it from Mr. Rajendra? Is it?
I don't know.
Yes, yes, Rajendra ji. So I
Yeah.
have muted. Mute yourself.
Yes.
Okay, now it's fine. Okay, Mr. Amir, try to unmute. I will check. Just check your. Here I have unmuted. Okay, yours
No,
is quiet.
I'm same. I'm always every day same.
Okay, so stay unmute, huh? All right.
Okay.
Okay, so see, there is always a general law which demands the risk assessment to be in place for every activity. Other than the general law or common law, there are some specific regulations that also demand risk assessment. Okay, so we will discuss that now. So first is fire safety. Every fire law in every almost all the countries, you can say, especially those which are member of United Nations or that the countries that follow ILO, yeah, in those countries definitely there is a law which demands a fire risk assessment to be carried out in the workplace. Okay, Fire Protection Act and fire laws, which are fire regulations, whatever are there, they always demand for risk assessment. So if suppose you do not have a fire risk assessment, you will be a criminal, or you can say you will be punished or penalized under two laws. One is the fire one, specific, and the other one is the general one, like Factories Act, for example. Clear? So there will be double penalties, you can say. I hope got the point. Okay.
Sir, is recording going on?
No, thank you very much for informing. Okay. Here I started the recording. All right. So come on now. Clear with this that we need to have risk assessment as per certain specific laws. There can be more than that, but we will discuss the minimum, you can say, as per the general or international regulations. Fire risk assessment is necessary in most countries. What are the factors to consider while carrying out a risk assessment on fire or while reviewing the risk assessment of fire in the existing building? Okay. The review happen whenever a changes happen. A question may come this exam in the exam. Say this is, though it is a part of IG2, but it is here in IG1. So a question can come on this topic. They may ask you, this is the only thing they will ask you, factors to consider. The question may come like in the scenario, some changes have happened in the building. As a safety engineer or manager or advisor, you are now required to review the fire risk assessment in the building. What are the points or factors you will consider? Okay. So keeping that in mind, keeping the scenario in mind, you have to write down these are the factors you consider. Construction and use of the building, whether it is constructed by wood or bricks or steel or whatever other material. Emergency routes, number of emergency routes and exits, suitability of emergency routes and emergency exit, fire detection and availability of fire detection and warning systems. You need to review whether it is suitable or not. Availability of firefighting equipments and their suitability, means how many water extinguishers, how many powder extinguishers. Then removal or safe storage of dangerous substances like chemicals. Okay, what are the procedures for that? Any emergency fire evacuation plan, emergency evacuation plan, whether it is suitable or changes are required, you need to review that. You see, meaning of review, I hope you all understand. Now it's checking again. If any changes are required, do it, otherwise don't do it, but check again. Then the needs of vulnerable people, for example the elderly, young children and those with disabilities, you need to review that. Providing information to employees and other people on the premises. How do you provide information, like a PA system or some alarm system or something else, signboards, okay, or through fire warden. Then staff fire safety training. So these are certain factors which you consider while doing a risk assessment or reviewing the risk assessment. Other than that, if you want to write down, you can also add on legal requirements, okay. Environmental conditions also you can write down. Like for example, Middle East, it's very hot. So a fire incident in Middle East can quickly become a disaster. Whereas if you see Indonesia, for example, I don't know much, but I think so that it's more like a rainy or humid atmosphere there. So a fire there may be extinguished by itself, we can say, or may not end up in a big disaster very easily, right? Compared to a Middle East country, because there, and obviously Middle East is more oil and gas. So a small fire can have very big or serious consequences. Whereas in a residential building, a small fire may be contained to a particular area and may not have serious consequences. Okay. So atmosphere, environment, geographical location also matters. You can add that point also. Clear, guys? Imagine yourself carrying out a risk assessment of fire. So obviously you need to consider all these factors, na? Even you can add type of activities carried out and the nature of hazards. Okay. This also can be added here. Clear? All right, Mr. Amir, if you can reply.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. Now, what are the steps of carrying out fire risk assessment? Very basic steps, similar to what we have seen yesterday. The only new thing is identify the fire hazard rather than identify the hazard. We are saying fire hazard. Step 2 is very similar. Step 3 is also very similar. Step 4 includes record the finding and then prepare emergency plan and training. So all these are part of step 4. And step 5 is review and update regularly. Okay. So when we will cover our fire element in IG2, you will get more knowledge and understanding on this. Right now, just have an overview. So identify fire hazard. For example, I hope you all know fire starts with the combination of 3 elements, which is fuel, oxygen, and heat. Okay. So these three sources of these three you need to identify. Source of fuel can be paper, packaging material like carton, furniture, highly flammable gases, liquid, chemical. Ignition source can be hot work activities like welding, grinding, electrical equipments or portable heaters, for example, or any other machine which may release a spark. Oxygen source can be oxygen cylinders, oxidizing substances, or even open windows. Okay, they also see for a fire you require 17% of oxygen, which is available in the atmosphere. So wherever there is sufficient oxygen, there is a risk of fire. So these you need to identify. Then comes the people at risk. So obviously your employees, workers, then visitors, contractors, and public, because everybody suffers with a fire, and any other person who is working in isolated locations. Okay. Also, you need to consider special groups, vulnerable groups, we say. Disabled people, children and young people, visually or hearing impaired, aged people, pregnant employees or females. Clear? Not all females, only pregnant or new mothers. New or expectant mothers we call. We will go on the risk assessment for that also. So if you have any such employee who is pregnant or just delivered a baby, you need to take extra care for them because their body is not as strong. Okay. That's why most organizations prefer to give them leave. Anyway, step 3 is evaluation, risk evaluation with the help of a matrix. Then control measures, applying controls. First, always give preference to the preventive measures. And then comes protective measures like detection and alarm system, firefighting equipment, means of escape, signs and notices. These are all protective measures, lighting, and all these are protective. Preventive measures are continuous identification of hazard identification, fire hazard identification. This is one preventive measure. Taking care of electrical connections, regular maintenance of electrical connections, using high quality or good quality electrical equipments and appliances. These are preventive measures of fire. Suitable place for storage of chemicals. Yeah, not only place, even the container should be suitable, well designed for the particular substance. This is also a preventive measure. And good housekeeping. Anyway, we will discuss that in detail in fire element, which is the second last element 10. So this is what we check here in step 3. Evaluate the risk of fire occurring, then the risk of people from the fire, remove or reduce the fire hazards. Yeah, fire prevention measures, prevention of spread of smoke and flame, then detection and warning signs, warning system, firefighting system, availability of escape routes, their suitability, lightings that include emergency light also, they should be suitable enough to highlight the areas in case of emergency when main power supply fails. You need to have sufficient emergency lights to guide people towards the safe exit. Proper signs and notices and regular maintenance of these signs and notices, and manual call point MCP. So that's all comes in step 3. All your control measures after risk evaluation. Okay. Step 4 is recording the findings, preparing emergency plan and training. So record all the necessary findings as per the format. Develop emergency plans, provide information and instruction and training to all the workers. Some you will train, you need to identify right people for firefighting training, fire warden training, and fire watcher training. So 3 types of trainings are available in case of fire or to handle this fire hazard. Okay. Got it, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One is fire watcher training, other one is firefighter, other one is fire warden training. Okay. In warden, there are responsibilities to inspect the area and make sure prevention, mostly related to prevention, and in case of emergency, support and help. Fire watcher training is mostly identifying the hazards on work site on a particular activity, especially hot work activities, and deal with the fire. And firefighter is basically a training on extinguisher, we can say. So the people will be good in dealing with fire. These are some of the points you should keep in mind. Okay.
Yes.
Now, the last step is step 5, which is review and update regularly. Obviously, we need to review annually, you know that, periodically to keep the assessment up to date. Other than that, whenever necessary, whenever any changes happen, this is what. Keeping this in mind, the question will come in exam. Okay. Significant changes takes place in a workplace, which requires the fire risk assessment to be reviewed. What are the factors you will consider? Okay. Or after a real fire emergency, a fire breaks out, which means your control measures fail. So obviously you need to do an assessment. Clear? Or review the existing assessment because it's not sufficient now. Okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
what about temporary workplaces? Because many people who do not have sufficient firefighting measures, they give this excuse that sir, it is a temporary workplace. But for your info, temporary workplace is basically, guys, construction site or areas with not scaffold, the entire site. Okay. Or you rented a place, for example, for 6 months, 10 months, whatever. Okay. This also happens. Many warehouses of Amazon and similar organizations, they hire warehouses for particular time. And then once their job is done, like a sale or something, when the job is done, they leave it. But even for temporary workplaces, the fire safety rule applies. Okay. It applies to all workplaces. Risk assessment is required for temporary workplace also. Changes to workplace may require review of fire risk assessment. For example, extensions or changing internal layout. All right, may also need approval from fire authority. This depends on the national law. But yes, in most countries, you can say if you carry out some big changes in the workplace, then you have to apply for certification again. Clear with this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Next is display screen equipment assessment. The law of display screen equipment also demands employers to carry out risk assessments. See this. If a worker uses, the law says that if a worker uses display screen equipment every day as part of their normal work, continuously for 1 hour or more, which I think all of you do it, or in all of your organizations, this is very common. So in this situation, employer must do a workstation assessment or display screen equipment assessment or risk assessment of DSC. It is same thing. Okay. So it comes under ergonomics or law of ergonomics, we can say, or law of display screen equipment, whatever. But there is a demand, even in India also, you have to carry out workstation assessment if the employees are working continuously with display screen equipment. So for example, control room operators, computer users, typewriters, for example, your accountants, for example, admin staff, they also work on computers a lot. Clear? So what to do? Employers should look at the whole workstation, which include the equipment, furniture, working conditions like lighting, temperature, background noise. All these they should check. The job being done, what activities required to be done whole day, any special requirements of a member of staff, for example, a user with disability. So those are also to be considered. Now, where there are risks, they should take steps to reduce them. Okay. So what we normally consider in ergonomic assessment or display screen equipment assessment, taking the example of a computer workstation normally. So we check that the chair should be positioned directly in front of the monitor. Eyes must be about 18 to 28 inches from the monitor. Okay. Able to look the monitor straight ahead. You should not look above. Either straight or little bit below is acceptable, not above. Read the monitor without bending head or looking forward. Okay. Should sit straight and then look at the monitor. Make sure the screen must be free from glare. What do you mean by this point?
Glare.
Yeah, glare.
Glare means clear. It's not like some blurry.
Lighting, light or sun rays should not be there on your, should not hit on the computer screen. Yeah, it should be very clean and clear and no such obstructions be there or problems. Any special glasses required for computer work by the employee, that also to be checked. Wrists must be in straight and neutral position. Elbow 90 degree. You might have seen that photograph, no? Something like this. All of you, I think, or most of you might have gone through this photograph. Okay, so just check these requirements. This should be the sitting posture or position of the person who is using a display screen equipment for more than 1 hour. So wrist should be in straight and neutral position, elbows at 90 degrees, shoulders relaxed, should not be lifted up, you can say, or bending. They should be relaxed, backwards, relaxed. Okay. See now in this position, I understand to maintain this position initially can be difficult for people. But if you can do it, see, there are two things. First, if you cannot maintain this position for long, it's good. This way you will take breaks. You will get up and do some relaxation. I mean some stretching. Second, if you work in this position, you may or may not feel comfortable, but your body will not be affected. You can work for long with minimum negative health effects. Okay, so it is a good posture if you can maintain it. You don't have to maintain for 2 hours continuously. You should anyway take break after 1 hour. Now, other factors to consider is chair must provide good lumbar support. You know what is lumbar support, all of you?
Yes.
Yeah, this is, you can see lower back. This area is known as lumbar region. So good lumbar support is this one. Clear? Able to use mouse, keyboard, or any other equipment without stretching, bending, or twisting. Okay, in the straight position, it should be very comfortable for the employee to reach anywhere in its workstation, especially to the accessories which he use more frequently. Okay, Legs must fit comfortably with the work surface. Under the table, there should be sufficient space for the legs of the person, and feet fully supported by the floor or footrest. So normally in case of a male, floor is sufficient. Okay. But for females whose height is 5 or 5 feet 4 or 2, in their case, the legs might be hanging, which is not allowed. So in that case, they should use a footrest like this. You can see this fellow's legs are resting on the surface. If suppose his legs are not long enough, then we need a footrest. Okay, legs should not be hanging. And you see this behind the knee part? There should be gap from the chair, the edge of the chair and the knee. There should be some gap there. You should not be touching it. Why? Because behind your knees, lot of nerves passes through. So if this area is pressed, it will affect your lower legs. Okay, or even joint pain like knee issues with knees may happen, or issues in the lower legs may happen because blood supply will be affected. So always this area should be free from any support, you can say. And take short breaks like stand up, stretch, focus the eyes or something far away. Okay, these are certain things we should consider in doing the ergonomic assessment of computer user, for example. What are the risks of from display screen equipments? Why we should do an assessment? Because there are risks. What is the risk? Work related upper limb disorder. Okay, means problems in the upper limbs. Upper limbs are neck, shoulder, arms, fingers. These are upper limbs, upper body basically. So problems in these goes into work related upper limb disorder. Also musculoskeletal disorders, which include back pain, lower back pain, eye strain, fatigue, and stress. These are some common issues with display screen equipment. That is why assessment is required to make sure that none of these will affect your employee. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So see, safe working with display screen equipment requires well-designed work areas with suitable lighting, comfortable and adjustable seating, adequate ventilation, safe and suitable chairs, and everything else like screen, keyboard, other small components, desk, chair, environment. All these factors you should consider and check properly while carrying out the risk assessment for display screen equipments or ergonomic assessment also for computer user or display screen equipment users. Clear with the point now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next is manual handling. Manual handling risk assessment. The laws of manual handling also demand a risk assessment to be carried out if you are engaged in any manual handling. And obviously, I don't think there is any workplace where you do not have to do any manual handling. This is something very, very common, no? Everywhere we do it, in our house also, in the office also, everywhere we do some kind of manual handling. You can see as per UK, there is some law in Ireland. Anyway, it's not mentioned. It's only reference publication. Anyway. So what are the steps of manual handling assessment? Task description. First of all, describe what is the task, what is the activity. Is it pulling, pushing, repetitive action, whatever. Then collect the technical information. Yeah. Then size and weight, you can say, of the load, where to shift it, and all the any other technical information. Identify the risk factors, which we will discuss now. Identify the improvements to be put in place, control measures in step 4. And step 5 is review the effectiveness of the improvement. Okay. So what are the factors we consider while assessing the risk? Though we will discuss in detail in IG2, but just a quick overview. What are the factors we consider? There are 4 factors: load, individual, task, environment. To remember, you can remember it as LITE, light, or TILE, tile, whatever way you want to remember. Okay. What we need to consider in load, for example, the weight of the load, the size of the load, the shape of the load, okay, temperature of the load, rigidity of the load, outside surface of the load, sharp edges on the load. Got the point? So these are the factors that we should check in the load. Then comes individual. What shall we check in the individual? the gender, for example, male or female, physical health, yeah, any other special training or extra, efforts required to carry out the manual handling activity, we need to check that training requirements basically. Then comes task. What is the job type? Do you have to carry the load for 10 kilometer, 1 kilometers? Do you have to climb on a staircase with the load in hand, or on a ladder, for example, with a load in hand? Do you have to do it again and again and again and again? For example, I'll just use Mr. Amir as an example only. I'm using him. Mr. Amir,
Yes, sir.
yeah. See, can you lift a 5 kg load easily?
Yes.
Yes. Now suppose there are 100 bottles of 5 kg on the
No.
ground. No, now there are 100 bottles on the ground. You have to keep them in a cupboard.
Cupboard or bucket or trolley, what is sufficient?
No, you have to keep them in the cupboard. Okay, there is a cupboard, racking is there. You have to place all the 100 bottles in the racking. Do you think this is an easy activity for you?
It's easy but affect the health because 100 bottle, 100 time movement.
So you can say, you see, now try to understand. Though it is only 5 kg, it is not heavy, but 5 kg means you can lift only 2 at a time, one in each hand.
Yes.
50 times you have to bend to pick the bottle,
Yes.
right? This is not an easy task for you. Here the task is complicated. Repetition is there. We need more people, because or otherwise job breaks or job rotation to be introduced. You cannot do it continuously. Telling you can try. 50 times bending down and up and down and up. It's not that easy. With a load in hand, it's not easy. Getting the point? But you are not
Yes.
doing some exercise with dedication that no, I have to achieve this. You are doing some official work, which is suddenly tomorrow it may not come. Yesterday it was not there. Today only this work comes. So you are not used to it. You are not practiced. And load in hand is always difficult. Again and again and again and again. So these are task-related factors. Okay. Repetition. We will see in more detail when we will be on IG2. So don't worry. But right now I have an idea. Then environmental factors we check. For example, weather conditions, excessive temperatures, hot or cold, both can be dangerous for manual handling. Obviously, hot is more dangerous. Slippery surface, uneven surface, which may create trip hazards. So these are all environmental factors. These 4 factors we consider while doing the risk assessment of manual handling. Clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. A question on this may not come in the exam, so don't worry. If it comes, it will only ask the 4 factors. But normally it will not come. It used to come before, now it's not part. So it will not come. This is only for information. Now comes hazardous substance. KOSH. Do you know KOSH?
This is, I think, Canadian something.
No. It's a regulation from UK. Control of substances hazardous to health regulation. This regulation controls all the chemicals. Okay. And this is what is the regulation which most of the organizations who deal with chemicals follow. Okay. So KOSH also demands a risk assessment to be carried out for organizations that uses chemicals, or normally hazardous substances, hazardous chemicals that comes in the hazardous category. Okay. So now,
Mayank, this
yes, please.
hello,
Yes.
this cost is fine. There's something also called REACH, REACH. So
Yes.
REACH is also followed in Europe, across Europe. So that is also restriction, evaluation, and of chemical substance in the country or the continent. So is REACH and cost on planned on a different platter, or are they same? I don't think it's same. I think it's something to do with safety, and that is something to do with the public health.
See, KOSH is considering all the chemicals only which are hazardous to health. First thing, ये तो clear हुआ?
Okay.
Yeah, and KOSH is what is considered globally to handle the chemicals. And nowadays in chemicals we have globally harmonized system, GHS system. Means chemicals are now considered or treated similarly everywhere in the world. There is no special or different this thing way of handling chemical in different countries. Okay. Now, when we come on REACH, that REACH is basically, it is following the cost might be a regulation.
It's a regulation.
Or maybe a standard, you can say, following cost or similar to cost. That is possible. Which is also trying to or also designed to control chemical.
Right. REACH is defined by ICA, the agency. Yeah.
Okay.
European
all right,
Chemical
all right.
Agency.
European Chemical Agency it is, yes. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. Okay, so both say same, both demands a risk assessment to be carried out. Getting it?
Yeah.
Yes.
But normally, as far as I remember, I'm not sure. As far as I remember, REACH applies to electronic equipment.
No, 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 no. Any if you are a supplier of any product in Europe, and
So product.
so if that is anything more than 1 ton per annum, so you have to be REACH registered. It's
That's
like
fine.
registration, evaluation, authorization of a restriction of chemicals in Europe, right? And this is governed by the agency ICA, ECHA, which we discussed. So they are
Okay.
taking care of that any substance. Suppose you are making, say, example, bread. Example, just a very vague example. You are making bread. So what all has gone into the bread? You have to define everything, and they have restricted some chemicals that this chemical use cannot use in the bread. That is one. Secondly, if you are using some chemicals, for that you need to have an authorization also. So you have to take care of all those aspects when you are going to sell anything in European countries like that.
Okay, so basically REACH is more likely controlling the use or you can say approval, giving approval to chemicals.
Approval to chemicals,
Yeah.
yeah, only those chemicals are allowed which are listed, and those
In
there are
REACH.
many which are restricted, and there are many which needs authorization like that.
All right. Whereas COSH is largely focusing on how to manage chemicals.
Okay,
Getting the point? This is
okay,
how to
got it.
handle. Like for example, there is a chemical which is approved in REACH. Okay.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
have to use that chemical. You can use it
Fine.
now.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
how do you use that chemical? COSH is there to support you.
Yeah, yeah, now it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So this is what
Yeah.
it is. So if suppose you do not follow the COSH requirements, you may suffer fine and penalties or whatever punishment is there. Though the chemical is, if it is not approved by REACH, chapter is over. You
Yeah,
cannot use
correct.
it.
Right.
But if it is approved, then also there is a way to use it.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Obviously.
that's what you can say. You will see. So cost demands risk assessment to be carried out if you are engaged in chemical handling. Okay, of any chemical that comes in hazardous category. Hazardous can be flammable. Hazardous can be toxic or irritant to the skin, for example, or allergic. These are all hazardous chemicals. Okay, which create problems. There are 9 categories defined. Maybe available in your book if you see. If not now, you will see it in element 6 or 7, sorry, element 7, which is about biological and chemical hazards. So there you will see in detail. So don't worry. This is what. So any chemical which can anyhow give you some hazard, like water is also a chemical, but it's not hazardous. Whereas oil is hazardous chemical because it has health effects. That's what. So all those chemicals you can say are controlled by COSH. What is the requirement of the risk assessment? There are some changes from our general risk assessment. The step 1 here requires gather information about the substance, the activity that you are going to do, and working practices. Okay, so gathering information is what step 1 is here. So basically identifying the hazard, you can say, and everything goes into it. Step 2 is asking for evaluation, evaluate the risk to health. So what about who will be harmed? This will go into step 1. Okay. Step 2 is how people will be harmed, likelihood, consequence, and evaluation of risk. How much is the risk level? Step 3 is focusing only on the control measures. Whereas in our general risk assessment, step 3 is about evaluating the risk. Clear? Here it is, step 3 is only focusing on control measures. Step 2 is talking about evaluating the risk. Everything else goes into step 1. 4 and 5 is very same, record and review. Clear?
Sir,
Yes, please.
okay, just finish this one, then I can ask.
Now say it may come in exam, not the steps of risk assessment, but factors to consider, which we will see later on. It will come here. This point may come in exam, so we will discuss that when it will come. Yes, please. Yes, what's your doubt before I start with the steps?
No. The doubt is, I want to ask how they will ask the question from this section. The
Oh,
question
that
example.
I will tell you. I will tell you. Factors,
Hmm.
very much like fire.
Uh-huh.
Factors to consider while carrying out a risk assessment on chemicals. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that we will see. It will come after some
Okay.
5-6 slides. So first, what are these, as per these steps, what you have to do basically, just understand that. It will not come in exam for understanding, but gather information about the substance. So this step is step 1, which requires you to decide first of all who will carry out the assessment. Only chemical engineer or at least a chemical engineer should be a part of risk assessment team to make it suitable and sufficient. Okay. Identify the substances present or likely to be available in the area. Identify how the substances are hazardous. With the help of safety data sheet, you can get this information.
Mhm.
What effects could they have? Health effects. Find out who could be exposed to and how. Okay. Find out who is doing what. So step 2 basically in general risk assessment is part of step 1 here. So find out who is doing what and what does and could really happen. So all this information you have to find out in step 1. Step 2 is evaluating risk to health. So here you need to evaluate the risk to a group or individual. What is the potential of a substance for causing harm? Chance of exposure. So we actually do sampling here in step 2. Sampling, collecting the data, exposure thing, we will check the chance of exposure occurring, how often the exposure liable to occur, what levels are people exposed to and for how long. Draw conclusions about the risk to health. What might exposure constitute a risk to health? So our exposure related issues you can say comes here. Okay, completely technical. You have to have samplings and limits. What are the limits which are designed by the as per the law of certain chemicals? Are you following those limits or not? All these we check in this step 2. Step 3 is control measure. Decide on necessary measures like selection of measures to prevent or control exposure, maintaining control measures like ventilation, local ventilation or general ventilation. Yeah, cleaning regimes, follow proper cleaning, PPE, training, all these things. Maintain those control measures. Make sure control measures are used properly. Plan for emergencies in case of chemical leakage or spillage. Monitor the exposure to the employees. Health surveillance to be carried out for those who are engaged in chemical handling. Health surveillance is medical checkup. Please ask question in case if you see a new word or in case of any doubt. Then general IITS, information, instruction and training is necessary for employees, and then comes monitoring. Rather than supervision, it's monitoring. Okay. Then step 4 is record the assessment. To record all the necessary observations, unsafe conditions and practices which may happen. Interview and sampling requirements. Okay. So you can see this COSH ECOP here. Appropriate items from the list provided in the COSH ECOP. So what do you mean by this? COSH, you got it now. Control of substances hazardous to health. Approved code of practice. It's a law. Okay. The COSH regulation. Now this is what the question may come in exam. What are the factors to consider while reviewing the risk assessment of chemicals or while carrying out the risk assessment of chemicals or hazardous substances? Okay. This is important. Hazardous nature of the substance you should consider. Potential health effects, what can happen. Physical forms available, I mean the substance can be available in the form of solid, liquid, gas, fume, mist, vapor, dust. Okay. So what form it is it available in your workplace? You need to find out that or consider that. Some forms are visible like dust, some are invisible. Like dust, solid, liquid is normally visible, but other than that, gas, fine particle, airborne dust is also invisible. fumes, vapors, they are largely invisible. So physical forms are necessary to consider. Routes of entry. See, chemicals affect different part of our body. I don't know whether I have discussed this with you or not, but anyway, I'll discuss it now. If a chemical enters through your nose, it will affect your respiratory system or lungs and all. Okay. If a chemical enters through your mouth, it will affect your digestive system, intestine, liver, kidneys, stomach, and all that. Pancreas. Yeah. If a chemical enters through skin, it damages your layers of skin, like acids, for example. So first degree, second degree, third degree burn depends on the first layer, second layer, third layer of your skin, which will get burned. Okay. If a chemical, there is absorption, and if a chemical is directly injected into your body, chemical hazardous substance, whatever, through injection, for example, or a nail, for example, or a bite of dog or snake, if somehow a hazardous substance directly enters into your body, then it may affect your nervous system or circulatory system. Circulatory system include heart and blood vessels, and nervous system includes your brain related things, nerves and brains. Yeah, basically supply of blood. So it depends what routes of entry is likely to be, you can say, possible in this case, in this particular chemical, or the health effects, what will happen. Then comes quantity available or you require to use, concentration, which is dangerous, number of people exposed at a time, assigned exposure limits by the international or national authorities, whatever are the assigned limits. Normally, we follow the international standards. Okay. So companies can reduce them, but they cannot increase. For example, for a certain chemical, the limit is given as 10% in the atmosphere, or we can say 10 ppm. Your company can, organization can reduce it to 8 ppm, 7 ppm, 6 ppm, 5 ppm, but cannot extend it from 10 to 11, 12. Then it is illegal. But yes, you can reduce it to be more safe. Like normal speed limit is 40 on the road, you can drive at 20 also. Yeah, but you cannot drive above 40. Then there will be penalties. So this is how it is. Then frequency of exposure, how much are the chances of people to get exposed to it, and duration of exposure, how long are they going to expose, and then what are the existing control measures and their suitability. Also requirement of additional control measures. So this is are certain things that we should consider while carrying out the risk assessment on hazardous substances. Clear with this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any doubt now on this?
No, sir.
All right, great.
Sir, one
Now
thing I want
next,
to.
yes.
The question is, see, in India, if we will giving some reference, suppose he gave you some scenario that this company has limited to a store 10 kg of solid methane, or so like some countries they have the different rules and regulations. Suppose in India they are giving the some certain limitation. So we can give that limitation also on the same exam that we find
Yes,
this solution means from
yes.
there.
But inform, mention source of information from where you took this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You are free to write the answer the way you feel. There are no restrictions now. Like before. Previously, yes, there was a standard, a pattern that you should follow. Now, nothing is there.
Okay.
If it is suitable, you will get marks. If it is not suitable, you will lose marks. And what you are saying looks fine, so no problem in that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now, next is noise assessment. Some countries require noise assessment also to be carried out if in that for the organizations where noise is a common hazard, you can say. Clear? So noise assessment is required. Here you can see INDG 362 will give you information, noise assessment.
Question here.
Sorry, is someone saying something to me?
Yes, this is Narendra. I just want to ask something about the previous slide about the
Okay.
cost assessment.
Yes.
We are not much into completely into the hazardous materials, but we do have, let's say, the cabin cleaning which has been done for the aircrafts. So we are you using only one chemical, which is the RMD, which is class 9 category.
Mhm.
Okay, and it is the least one. That is not the one which can harm people, but still that comes under that class, category, that the people need to even undergo to the DGR course, which makes you understand that how to handle that hazardous. Though we are mixing up this chemical with other chemicals, because that has been used for the cleaning purposes. Now, my question is that wherever we are keeping this, that do we have to run an assessment to ensure that the RMD or the class 9 thing, it is not been exposed, that wherever we are keeping it, it is the warehouse is appropriate. Do we have to do that as well?
See, it is
Yes.
a good practice if you better do a risk assessment. Why?
Because we have
Because
not done. So that's what I know.
class 9 chemical is normally suitable for usage, domestic use also. Okay. They are suitable, but it is a good practice to carry out risk assessment in case if something goes wrong. Some risk is there in class 9 also, no?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like even we use the hair colors and all that sprays, which we also get it from the supermarkets. Even some of them also have a flammable liquids, but that is RFL. But still, some of them do have RMD. And so my question was, because I know that we have not run such kind of any assessment, which I've just come to know now. So do you think that we need to run an assessment, whether there is an appropriate place, or we should get some exposure to that area
Yes.
to store?
See, until there is no accident, no problem. But if somehow some incident happen, because it is ultimately a hazardous
Nothing
chemical.
has happened so far. Nothing has happened so far.
Yeah,
So,
nothing
but
has happened.
in
Everything
case,
is fine. In
yeah.
case something goes wrong, now you will be in trouble. Then yes, then it is the fault. You do not have a sufficient risk assessment. Then they will raise the point.
Okay.
So you better
Okay.
carry out some assessment.
All right.
Yeah?
Okay.
Risk assessment on this particular chemical, whatever you are using, whether it's a
Right.
cleaning
May
material or some spray. Yes.
Right. Right.
I,
Right. Right.
because Mr. Narinder is using the daily uses as a professional work, right? Operation work. And we are also means his will all means his operation. I think they are also using some certain levels and certain amounts of chemicals should be stored in a place because they can use while they're working. So I think with any chemicals, even if it's category 9, like he told the spray and all, in spray it's okay. It's the quantity is very less, means one spray in your house, but it's also very effective to the the people or the children, and it's also flammable. But in the his case, the little bit scenario is more means maybe they have little bit storage more. So I think it should be well little bit or well precautionary measure he should take it for
Like
the storage.
I would add on this, like RMD, we have like a lithium battery, which is very common, and all of us have is in our laptops, in our phones. So
Mhm.
where when you're flying, so we generally ask you that whether are you having a spare battery or not, because spare battery, when it gets exposed to the oxygen, it may get burst. So we always
Yeah.
try to do not get it exposed. So that also falls under RMD. And most of the airlines, sometimes they accept most, but most of them they don't do that. So the spare batteries are not accepted anyways. Paints and kerosene are also, so that's what all fall under R&D only.
Yeah, yeah, even batteries and these are hazardous. They carry hazardous chemicals. So you have to have a risk assessment.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a good practice. Have a risk assessment and follow it so that if something goes wrong, you can have something to show that this is what we follow. Now, even if something happens, it's a matter of chance then.
So do
At
we
least,
take the interview this one break today because I think 9 o'clock already. Nine.
yeah, but I
In
started recording by around 9, sorry, 8, 25, I think. So just after 5 minutes, we will, 5, 10 minutes. Let us finish this noise part.
okay.
Yeah, then we will go for a break. It's very small anyway. Some information noise assessment. No, this is not for exam. Nothing from here will come to exam now from this noise assessment. but just have a quick look at it for your understanding. What are the steps of a noise assessment as per the noise related regulations, which are also available in some countries, not in all the countries. In most of the countries, noise comes under the general regulation, you can say, but in some there are specific rules. So what are the steps? First step here is check whether a survey risk assessment is required and carry out noise survey. Okay, this is what is hazard identification here. Step 2 is very same, identify the people or group exposed. Then step 3 is also same, evaluate the risk and control measures. 4th is record, and 5 is review, very common. What are the things to consider during a noise assessment? Here, what factors you need to keep in mind are whose hearing checks shows early signs of noise induced hearing loss. NIHL is basically loss of noise at certain frequencies. Okay. The end result of NIHL is you will become deaf, but before that, you will lose your hearing little bit. So there is always this audiometric test on the employees who work with high or who have to work in high noise area. So the audiometric test will reveal if there is any problem. So identify that. Then what are the potentially noisy areas in the workplace? You need to identify that. Who is working in them or visiting them and for how long? The duration and frequency, everything comes here. Then do you have to shout in those areas to be heard? If you have to shout, it means assessment is required.
Yes.
In simple words. Okay. अगर चिल्लाना हो रहा है तो assessment चाहिए. Then is there any potentially noisy mobile plant being used by employees? A potentially noisy mobile plant, the example is excavator. Are you familiar with excavator?
Yes.
Yeah, it is required for digging or a rock breaker, kind of. So that's what is excavator. It's a very noisy equipment because when it breaks, there's a high level of noise. So you need to have risk assessment. Is there any hearing protection in use and by whom and what it is? For example, there are two types of hearing protection, which is ear muff and ear plug. So you need to assess if people are using it. What are these? Are these suitable or not? All this. Okay. In detail, we will see in IG2, so don't worry. Then comes specific case. This we will start after the break. Okay. Specific case means vulnerable groups. So we will start this after the break. So let us stop this session now. I hope any doubt, anything, any question? No? Okay. I stop the recording now. So let us take a break, guys. 9:20. Let us be back by 9:35. What say?
Means
15 minutes.
element 3 is the bigger one, right?
Yes, it's big. Probably it will finish tomorrow or sorry, Monday or Tuesday it will finish. Okay.
Okay. Vulnerable group.
All right, guys. So let's take a 15-minute break and then we will again start after 15 minutes. I'll write here. 15 minutes. Okay. In India, the timing after 15 minutes will be 9:35.
9:35 means here
Yes.
7:05.
Okay. So please be back after 15 minutes.